There's a version of iOS that didn't just update the iPhone, it changed how software was built, distributed, and experienced. It reshaped how we work, how we communicate, how we entertain ourselves, and how we fill the empty moments in our day. It wasn't a redesign, it wasn't a visual overhaul, it wasn't even obvious at first. It was iPhone OS 2, the update that introduced the App Store. And nearly everything about modern digital life traces back to that moment. When the first iPhone launched in 2007, it immediately stood apart. A capacitive touchscreen, multi-touch gestures, a real desktop-class web browser. But the software story stopped there. There were only Apple's built-in apps. Mail, Safari, Photos, Maps. There was no way for outside developers to participate. If you wanted new functionality, your only option was the web browser. This wasn't an oversight, it was deliberate. At first, Apple didn't want third-party apps. Steve Jobs pushed web apps instead, apps built with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, running inside Safari. Web apps couldn't access hardware, no camera, no microphone, no sensors. Offline support was unreliable. Animations lagged, scrolling felt disconnected. They didn't feel like it was part of the system. If the iPhone was going to feel fast, personal, and alive, apps couldn't live in the browser. They had to live on the device. On July 11, 2008, Apple released iOS 2 alongside the iPhone 3G. The update introduced an SDK and the App Store. At first, there were roughly 500 apps. Most were simple: flashlights, calculators, notes, early games. There were no push notifications, no subscriptions, no in-app purchases, no background multitasking, but iOS 2 introduced the foundations that made third-party apps possible. Apps were signed, apps were sandboxed. Each app ran in isolation. Each app was verified. That decision helped shape iOS security from that moment forward. Support for Microsoft Exchange brought push email, contacts, and calendars. GPS access on the iPhone 3G allowed apps to understand location. These weren't flashy features, but together they turned the iPhone into a real computing platform. For the first time, users could install software Apple didn't create. The App Store created a global marketplace. A single upload could reach millions. Independent developers stood next to large companies. Entire businesses formed around single ideas. Early apps changed behavior. Feeds became constant. Moments became shareable. Shazam listened. Games kept people engaged. Idle moments disappeared. Waiting became scrolling. Another ecosystem emerged. Jailbroken iPhones. People jailbroke not to rebel, but to unlock features. Copy and paste, multitasking, tethering. The gap between what users wanted and what Apple permitted fueled the jailbreak scene. Apple watched what people installed. Many of those ideas later became official features. Entertainment followed. Games, podcasts, always available. The iPhone became a radio, an arcade, and a media hub. Businesses followed. Ride-sharing, food delivery, mobile banking. The iPhone became infrastructure. Apple changed too. It became a platform company. Rules, reviews, revenue splits. Every modern debate about Apple's control started here. Today, almost everything runs through apps. How we date, how we shop, how we learn, how we navigate. It all traces back to iOS 2. iOS 2 didn't feel like a revolution, but it quietly launched one. 500 apps became millions, and modern digital life formed around a phone in our pockets. iOS 2 didn't just change the iPhone, it changed how the world uses software.